Welcome. My name is Van Richards. I'm a chartered financial consultant, and I'm here to talk to you today about how to identify stocks that you can put into your retirement plan. My objective for you is so that you can design a plan so that you will never run out of money during retirement. And one of the ways that I help you do that is we take a look at all the different stocks that are out there. And well, not all the different stocks, but we individualize stocks. We take a look at them in general as a universe, and then we pick certain stocks and we talk about them. We help you to identify those that might fit well into your retirement strategy or your general savings strategy. The idea is we look at three different things. Number one is we look at the earnings of the stock, we look at the stability, and we look at the competitiveness. Today we have, again, a stock that is different than a lot of times that we've talked. A lot of times that when we get a chance to talk about stocks, we talk about how well they're doing and the good things that are going on. Today, we're going to take a different turn. We're going to talk about a stock that's actually been doing really bad. It was actually the loser for the day, and that would be Vertex Pharmaceuticals. The winner for the day was actually Zoom. We talked about them earlier in the week. So without much further delay, let's go ahead and get started into the daily NASDAQ stock analysis. Okay. The stock that we're going to talk today about is going to be Vertex Pharmaceutical. Yes, the general market was down a little bit. It's been down for about 3 days now. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on in the economy. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on in the elections. Well, at least there's uncertainty in the mass media from that standpoint. Some of us don't have any indecisions, but let's go on to the next subject as we talk about this. There's a lot of indecisions about what should be going on in different investment companies. When we look at it from the standpoint of what may be next year's effect, we don't know from that standpoint. So we have to just sit back and see what's going to happen. However, as we sit back and analyze what's going on in the world, these companies have certain things that are still going on. Well, what we saw today and yesterday actually was a big drop in Vertex Pharmaceuticals. I think the best thing to do when we see a big drop in a stock is to pause just for a little bit, be still, and look at what's going on. You don't want to approach investing at any time with your hair on fire. You have to look at it from a logical standpoint. Look at those three things that I talked about: the earnings, the competitiveness, and the stability of the company. And then if the general market pulls you down, then you are certain that at least in the long run that you've got a good strategy that's going to help you do the thing that I try to help you do, and that's create a portfolio so you never run out of money during retirement or general savings from that standpoint. So let's get into looking and seeing, why did Vertex Pharmaceuticals take a nosedive of about 20% today? So let's get into that. Let me make the screen just a little bit bigger for you if I could, and then we can go on. And I want to show you, actually, I think the best thing to do is to begin by saying, this is what Vertex does. And then we're going to talk about what part of their business has been interrupted. So watch this with me if you would. See, I think the thing that a lot of people that are trading stocks right now, especially a lot of day traders that are out there, and actually there has been a restriction that's been put on this stock because I think the day traders are going crazy over this, is that they don't look at everything else that's going on. There is one particular part of this company's business, one minor part of this company's business that hit a bump in the road. And because it hit a bump in the road, a lot of people are going, sell, sell. But take a logical standpoint look at this and try to understand, is this going to affect the overall profitability of this company? Let's go forward just a little bit and see how this affected everything. Okay, hold on just a moment if I could, please. All right. We look at it now, what we see is we can see this is what happened over the past year with this company. We see that it started at 176.14 a year ago. And then today, yes, it had a whopping big drop down to 215.28. But hey, go over here follow the spaghetti graph. It dropped from something that was high to something that was low. Now, that might sound rather silly, but that's actually what happened. So let's take a look and see actually what's been going on in the past. Yeah, it's actually from the past to now, from a year, it's had a 22.2% rate of return. If we look at it within 3 years, it started a year ago at 3 years ago at 154.70, and it ended today at 215.28. So that is a return, an increase in value of 39.16%. So that's actually not too bad in 3 years. It's an annualized rate of return, an APR of 11.64%. Now, we do understand that the past performance of these is not going to be indicative of what's going on in the future that's going to go on. Hold on a second. We had something that happened here. Pardon me if I could. All right, just another moment. Okay, so the idea is right now what we see going on with Vertex is they had one part of their business that stopped working. Vertex stopped development on the alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency drug because of potential toxicity to the liver of one of the participants that was there. Now, what that really means is that we're going to abbreviate that great big long description and call it AATD. The drug is called VX-814, and they're discontinuing it because of toxicity. However, something that's really important to understand is that they still have another drug that is actually in phase 2 of the proof of concept. So they have another shot going forward for this particular drug. What's happening is that investors are really starting to question, Vertex capabilities to continue to develop drugs. Because if we look at it from the standpoint of what's been going on, look, I want to show you this again. This is what I showed you a moment ago, and I'm gonna skip forward just a little bit. Okay, see all the different drugs that they've been developing? This is the one that they're having the problem with, the AATD. This is the drug that's not working anymore. So, but you have to think of it. Let's go back. The other drugs that they have, especially the cystic fibrosis drugs, this is the cornerstone drug. Do you know that there's some of these therapies that cost as much as $300,000 a year, and there's people that are paying for it? I want you to look at actually what's possible coming up. Let's keep going on. When we look at the earnings history of this company, there's been very few surprises recently. Let me make this just a little bit bigger for you if I could. And let's go over and look at the most recent years in 2018, 2019, 2020. The solid line is actually the earnings that occurred. The dotted line is the projected. They've been really pretty good from that standpoint. So, I don't think there's much to complain about that. Let's look at the moat. Remember, the moat's going to be the imaginary barrier that's between the company and their competition. And when we see what's standing in that moat, what keeps the competition at bay, the biggest thing is that Vertex has patent-protected cystic fibrosis therapies. These therapies have 20-year patents. I mentioned before that the pricing on it was huge. And there are insurance companies that are paying for these therapies that are upwards of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. The competitors out there like the BioMarins and the Merck and Roche, which we'll talk about in just a moment, they're using Vertex's molecule development therapy. They're using their science to develop their own drugs. That's why there's a narrow moat that's in there. We can continue talking about the other positiveness, because if we look at the cystic fibrosis drug, in 2018, it was about $3 billion in sales. It's projected to go up to $10 billion by 2028. Most of these drugs have been developed in-house, and I mentioned before, the patents are crazy long. They're 20 years. Now, that does bring up the fact that there are some negatives to going forward in this. The biggest negative is it's a cystic fibrosis drug, and that's one particular area of this company's development. If that doesn't work, if that fails for some reason, that's going to hamper their growth going forward. Pricing competition could reduce growth also. Okay, look, if we get Medicare for all, it's a possibility that the profitability of every drug company could be in danger. Also, if we get a tax increase from a corporate standpoint and we go from 21 to 28%, that's going to also reduce growth of these particular companies. There are gene therapies as well that are being developed by some companies that could be significant competition. So those are some of the negatives going forward. Now let's look at how it's competed with other companies. Vertex competes with Merck, Roche, and BioMarin. And I didn't put the numbers in here specifically, but if you look at the spaghetti graph, they're pretty close to each other. This is just 1 year. Now, if you think about it, I want to show you one other thing. When we look at the size of these companies, that has a big influence on the stability of their price. Let me get them all up here for a moment. If you look at the size of Vertex and BioMarin, even though BioMarin's by and large, the smallest, let's say, Vertex is right behind that with the mega company Roche at $263, almost $264 billion. And they've got a lot of drugs in the pipeline. So the idea is that when you have a company that's smaller, and we're going to call 56 billion going to be smaller, although that's a big old number. Look at what happened over here to the right. This was today, okay? BioMarin experienced something similar because they had a drug that failed. You don't see that type of problem as much with companies like Merck and Roche because they're so big and they have so many different companies, so many different drugs that they're developing. Let's go back 3 years and you can see the same thing that's happened in there. And actually, if you go back and you look at it over 3 years, you see that Vertex has actually done better than all of them, although Vertex has been the most volatile of all of them as well. All right, let's keep going on and see what's been going on from the standpoint. Now, look, Morningstar comes out and they tell what the star rating of this is going to be. And they also peg the fair market value as well. They say the fair market value right now of Vertex is going to be $259. They closed today at $215. So if Morningstar's conservative, believe me, they're a conservative company. If they're saying it's undervalued, it's undervalued. They're right now, basically going off of what Morningstar is saying, it's trading at a discount of about 17%. They gave it 3 stars. I don't think they updated this star rating because I think this is probably more like a 4-star heading to a 5-star company. And the reason is when you look at their algorithm is actually spitting out that the 5-star rating would be 181, and that's going to be a bargain basement value. It's getting there really, really close. So you have to determine whether you think it's going to be a good buy or not. When we look at what all the other analysts that are out there are saying, out of 20 of them that are following Vertex Pharmaceuticals, we see that 20 of them are saying that this is a strong buy. So friends, look, I can't tell you that you need to go out and buy this particular drug company, obviously, but it's a pretty strong buy, I think, from the standpoint of buying. I'm not going to go buy it at this point in time. I will buy it in a portfolio, like in a NASDAQ 100, or if you were buying a ETF like QQQ from Invesco, it's already in there from that standpoint. So just keep that in mind through everything that we're talking about. And I think that this should help you to make up your mind as to how this is going to fit in. One thing I want to make this just a little bit bigger on me if I could for a minute, because I want to talk to you who are out there right now. If you're trying to day trade this stock, good luck. But I'm just telling you, it's a stock that, you know, as far as the future goes, I think the future of this stock still looks really pretty good. If we're looking at the short term, is it going to go down anymore? there's a possibility in there depending upon how things are working. So you have to understand that a lot of the day traders that are out there, if you're a smaller company like a BioMarin, they're going to influence the value a lot. When you're a company that's about the size of Vertex, around $56 billion, the day traders are not going to affect it quite as much, but still, they're affecting probably, in my estimate, maybe 25 to 26% of the trading volume right now. A lot of the larger houses, the investment houses, are trading this stock too, but they're probably buying more than they are selling from that. So keep that in mind with your trading, your trading strategies, and don't just let one stock predominate what you're doing. That's the biggest advice that I could give to you today if I give you anything. If you like the pharmaceuticals, go through all the different pharmaceutical companies that are in the NASDAQ 100. There's several of them. BioMarin, we talked about a little bit today. Of course, you could include the Roches and the Mercks if you want to. That just depends. But you can trade these stocks and buy them when they're cheap. Now, look, you've got to be a brave soul. If you're out there and you're saying, this is stock that I like, but I'm not sure if it's hit bottom yet. Neither do I. Nobody else can tell you that. There's nobody that's going to ring the bell that's going to say, hey, go out and buy this particular stock. But keep that in mind and put your strategy in play. And if you've got different questions about this stock or about other ones, look, I can't answer options questions on dates and stuff like that. But if you've got other questions, enter them in and I'll be glad to answer them during the week. I get different messages, emails too. You can send me an email at van@richardsfinancialplanning.com and I'm glad to answer your questions. If you want to talk to me about your retirement portfolio and you're in Texas, I have to qualify that. You can go over to my website at richardsfinancialplanning.com and hit the teal color button and it'll bring up a calendar, which you can take a little time and you and I can converse about your questions and I can see if I can help you out. So with that said, I'm not sure what I'm going to be covering tomorrow. We'll just see what happened today in the markets and I'll pick another stock and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So with all that said, I'm going to say have a great evening and keep your questions coming in. Have a great day.